Okay, we're back with this one. So pretty much we've added our body piece, our leggings, and our shoes, which is just the basic armor set that we have in the system right now. If we go down to weapons, we have our weapons. Let me make sure that this slot is set up correctly. It is not. So we have the fist set up, which is correct, but we want this to be our main weapon. And currently in the implementation, I only have the main slot set up, so it doesn't automatically equip anything for the offhand projectile or special weapon. I just have those as stand-ins for for you to continue the implementation of the system however you want to use it. Since I actually have time right now, I am going to show you how to add new resources to be able to create your crafting. So right now, we don't have anything in our resource list. So let's say I need 10. I need copper ore. And I'm just gonna say phosphorus. No, I'll say zinc. So we need a combination of these to be able to create this item. So now that we actually have this in our list, I can double click these to add it to the list. And then I can come over here and double click, or I can alt click to go up and down the number of quantities. You can also come down here and click the buttons, but that's a little tedious, so that's why I added the ability to just double click and alt click to be able to bring up and down the quantity needed. So now we have our crafting list for this weapon set, and we can just save this out. If we go into our resources, we can actually see our resources in here, so we can actually come in here and give these costs if you want to sell it in a store. Well, buy it or sell it into a store. And the max quantity that we want to be able to hold in our list. And if you want an inventory icon for it, you can do that as well. And description. So now we have resources for crafting it. We have information about our resources and what it is. We have a weapon defined, and we also have the armor. Now that we have a startup armor set for our character, we can go through and go to our actual actor and edit it. So now we can go in here and equip our initial stats, and every time I equip something, you can see the stat change over here. There is no offhand, there's no head item. You have a body piece, legs, and feet, and this should be enough of a visual representation to be able to cover our character. You can see our stats here. We have no enemies to do a simulation to fight, but we can actually change that in a few minutes. So let's save this out. We already have our initial character information. So now, if we come in here and we play, we have armor. Yay! No more happy suits. And equipping armor kind of works the same way. When you make different armors or you get a actual armor in your inventory, inside your equipment panel, you can come in here. You can see what you have equipped. I don't have an icon for it, so you can't actually see the actual icon here. But if I come in here, I can actually equip other items if I have any equipped and see my change in stats if I actually do it. You see that the Currently, these stats go down to 0. It's showing that if I choose to remove my armor, my stats are going to go down. So now we have our armor, we have our weapon, nothing to fight, we have a terrain to run around in. But still, we don't have any of our default settings loaded because we don't have a title screen. And I do believe I have enough time to just set up a quick title screen. So I'm going to escape out of here. Come on. So to create a title screen in our maps, all we have to do is just have a level with the words title screen in it and set that as our default, and the system will automatically be able to tell that this is a title screen, so we should automatically handle it as a title screen, which means we won't load our level information, we won't load level event information, we won't load our characters, and we need to just attach to a root title screen camera and just sit there and wait for input from the screen. Now, I know that I added a few code bits to the default title screen to work with the 3D environment that I had before, but we shouldn't run into any issues. But that is why I'm doing this without any prep, to see if there is any issues when someone gets their hand on this, so I can have all that ironed out before it happens. And if you do run into any issues, you can see me fix it in this video. Title screen. I'll just name it title screen. So now, let's make sure I save everything. So we have a title screen. Everything's black and dark and decrepit. And I shouldn't have to do anything else in here other than play it. So here we have our title screen. I can click start. We get our buttons for our title screen to be able to start a new game, continue game, load game. I don't have a continue and I don't have a load, so that's why it's grayed out. We have our options. We can go in here and do option stuff. Oh, my controller wasn't working for a second. I thought it was broken. I just didn't select the screen. I have no idea why. Maybe there's something that you have to do to set focus, but I'm having an issue to where anytime I load, you have to click the screen to be able to get controller input. Sometimes the mouse, I can click and things like that for the interface, but if I use the controller, I will still have to click the screen once to work it. I'm not sure if that's a bug in my system or if that's a bug with the engine in general, but just so you know, that's a known issue that I know about. So now if we click new journey, it should look in the database to get our starting map and actually load us into our map. And there we go. We have our start location. We're facing in the correct direction. We have the initial time, which is that 8 a.m., which looks correct by the time I have. The day system is moving kind of fast right now just because when I initially set this up, I wanted to do a quick lighting test. So I turned the time, the initial time that it takes to go through an entire day down to about 2 minutes. So it's a 2-minute day cycle. So it's going to go by pretty fast. You have the character here. We're starting in. We have all of our default settings. Automatically loads the graphic information from the database as well. So if I can actually show an example of this. And if it doesn't work, then I'll look foolish, but I've tested this enough times to be confident enough that if I go in here and load my initial data, and let's just turn some things all the way down to the lowest setting possible for the most horrible machine ever. And I set this. I'm not going to change this because this only works if you load the system in standalone, because the editor can't change the actual resolution and be full screen and things like that. So I'm going to save this, close that out, and now let's load our level again for our title screen. We have our title screen, start up, and let's start our game. And everything should look like crap. Yep. Everything looks pretty low res. So that's our setting. You can actually go in here, change these live to get everything back looking like it should be. I'm going to change the resolution to at least 1280. Change all this back to epic. And apply video settings here. So now we get our color back, we get our ambient inclusion and all that good stuff. Save changes. Exit out. And there we go. We have all of our setting informations back. Exit out. And I'm actually going to change the default here back so that when I actually release this level as well for the example level, well, I guess the second example level, this information will actually be properly set and not changed down to horrible settings. I can't click today. Initialize. That is interesting. It reset back to high. I'm gonna have to check that because this is actually supposed to load the previously saved. Oh, no, it's supposed to load the previously saved information to the database and not default everything back to high. But I'll look into that and make sure that's working upon release. I'm actually going to change the time down to like 7 a.m. I'm trying to see exactly what else I can show that can actually happen within 6 minutes for this video. We have a title screen. We have a starting area. All right, there's nothing here because I have to load the level information. So let's load up the main island. One thing I should be able to show off real quick is actually using a building generator to create a building. So if I fly all the way over here, let's say we want to build a building right here to be a start of a city. In our toolkit, well, in our database manager, if we load up our database and we go to building layout, we have the option to create pretty much a floor layout plan to have prefabricated buildings to be able to generate into our area. And these buildings are generic data for buildings that you can have meshes that coincide with the actual representation of these tiles to pretty much build a building based on your desired design based off these same and similar floor plans. So to show this a little bit, if I go in here, wrong folder. Inside of your content folder, you need a folder called data. And inside data, you need building information. And I'm actually going to copy this from my other folder. Instead of creating and building from scratch, I can just show it. It'll be a lot faster. So inside of the data folder, you need a buildings layout folder. So I'm going to copy all of this out from here and put it into my other project. And inside of building layouts, you have all the building files that are the preset information for that actual building. And these files are just nothing but hex files that represents the actual data that's written out to the file. So I have a hex editor in here, which I don't think I can include with the packaging, but the HXD is a pretty popular hex editor that you can just use just to look at the data if you want to see that. But let's set our actual path. We can see our buildings, and if we double click this, we can see all the different layers that make up the building, from the base to the first floor, which is, if we look at the bottom, we can see the porch area. We can see the beginning hallway and the different rooms. The graphics for this is very crude. I just tried to put something together to where you can have a good idea of what is being placed where. So if for an example, if I go to the interior and I want to make just a modification to the interior, I want to put a wall right here and a wall right here. If I click and drag and rotate, you can see it scanning and updating where I'm actually rotating my mouse to be able to place the wall. I'm actually going to put this wall back here, and I'm going to click over here where they're trying to find a slot that does not have a wall on it already, because you can only put one interior per square. So you have to kind of plan out what part is actually going to hold the actual physical representation of that wall, since you only have one angled side to be able to place something in a tile. I'm actually going to delete this wall with this null pointer here. It updates the tile over here. So if I click here, you can see the brush that we're currently working with. If it goes blank, then you know we're dealing with a null tile, and you can use that to just come through and pretty much delete things from your level. So I can just go in here and just open this whole room out. Instead of having this whole thing closed out, I can just delete all the walls. I'm actually not going to save this, and let me load another. So this is a pretty larger tile layout. This is a larger house, one of the first ones I made actually, and it shows off all the different types of shapes and things you can do for that building. And like I said before, this is just general information for a building. This is not saying that this is this type of house with this type of color, wall sets and things like that. The floor won't be blue, the outside won't be brown. This is just links back to a list of meshes which will define the house. So if we go in here and we look at the content browser, under building generator, we can see the modern template. Inside of modern template, we have our externals, and these will actually represent the modular pieces that will that are used to create the actual building. And each layer has information to be able to place either the internal or external information, modular piece information, or decoration and furniture information for the actual building. If we go into the main folder, we have our modern building template, of which if I drag this out, oh, that's the wrong one. That's the path. The modern template, which is here. So if we look in here, we have a list of all the actual pieces that coincide with the definition array for each of those tile sets that's in the layout generator. And from that, we can actually make our building. So I'm going to stop right here, and next time we're going to make our building and see how all that is done.